Remember Jake Davison, the nut who Devon and Cornwall police allowed to have his firearm and licence back after being asked not to by the man's mother, who then went on and killed 5 people. Well, finally someone has admitted their decision was wrong. Chief Superintendent Roy Linden has told the Inquest that the force apologises for allowing Davison to legally own a firearm. For all the good that is now. Davison had his firearms licence removed after he attacked 2 teenagers in September 2020. But even after that incident, when Davison's own mother told the police he was a nut, they still decided to allow him to have the licence and firearm back. Once he had it back in his possession, approximately a month later, he killed his mother, 4 other innocent members of the public, and then capped his own arse. 51-year-old Maxine Davison, Jake's mother, 3-year-old Sophie Martin, and 43-year-old Lee Martin, her father, 59-year-old Stephen Washington and 66-year-old Kate Shepherd. Now, we spoke recently in a report, which I'll link to in the description at the end of this video, about police staff member David Rees, who was responsible for processing Davison's firearms application. Rees was a former armed police officer and Royal Marine before taking a role in Devon and Cornwall Police's firearms licensing unit in May of 2016. He told the Inquest earlier that he did not receive any formal training in understanding the Home Office guidance on issuing firearm certificates in domestic violence or mental health. Which, even if that's true, he was a former Royal Marine and a former firearms officer, should have had some idea that there would be some guidance somewhere around giving guns to nut-nuts or violent people. I mean, just a guess, but I'm pretty sure most of you watching wouldn't give a firearm to someone with a history of mental health or who's of a violent disposition. Anyway, speaking at the inquest, Chief Superintendent Linden said Jake Davison should not have held a licence. It should not have been given back to him. For that we very much apologise. It should not have happened. He added, the interpretations and guidance was not what it should have been. It was quite clear looking back at this case there was an overly optimistic tolerance to risk. Now, of course, he has said that changes have now been made to their issuing processes following a review, and said that had the case been referred to a senior manager, it's unlikely that the licence would have been given back. He said if that had come in front of us today, it would absolutely not be granted with the new leadership structure and process in place. Which is easy to say after it's all gone pear-shaped, but I bet it happens again at some point in the future. The inquest into the failings of Devon and Cornwall Police and the deaths of 51-year-old Maxine Davison, Jake's mother, 3-year-old Sophie Martin, 43-year-old Lee Martin, 59-year-old Stephen Washington and 66-year-old Kate Shepherd, has now ended. After 5 weeks of hearing evidence, the jury were directed by Senior Coroner Ian Arrow to record a conclusion of unlawful killing, but this came with highlights of a catalogue of catastrophic failings on the part of the police. Now, the inquest into the death of Davison's victims has concluded. Another inquest will now take place into Jake Davison himself and his death, which is expected to be a very short hearing compared to the deaths of his victims. To be fair, I'm really not concerned what the outcome of Davison's inquest says. He was a dangerous man who killed several people, innocent people, and then popped a cap in his own arse. As far as I'm concerned, he deserves no more airtime. What I am interested in, however, is who from Devon and Cornwall Police will be held accountable for these deaths and for the failings that led to such a tragedy.